So everybody, thank you. Welcome to my live show. I'm going to be answering your questions here, whatever they're about, for the next 45 minutes to hour. And I hope to be doing this more often. I'm planning tomorrow to do one about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Eastern Standard Time, and just to see how it goes and try to use my 34 years of experience as a golf professional and teaching golf and helping people improve their games. Many of you know my setup for impact golf method, which is a single plane golf swing. And so if your questions are related to that, but any swing method or questions that you may have, I'm happy to answer them for you. So like many of you, I'm stuck at home. I haven't really left the house except to walk the dog in probably a week. And that's been a once a week thing, going out shopping. So hopefully this is over soon. We can get back to playing golf, but I've been working on a lot of videos, especially my members section, practice sessions that you can do at home, and that's included in the membership. So there's going to be 21 practice sessions. So far there's 6, there should be 8 by the end of the weekend. And basically I'm taking you through different practice situations, which you could do at home, working on different parts of the swing without having to hit golf balls. Many of you can't hit golf balls at home, so it makes sense to work on your swing, just working on your swing instead of hitting golf balls. But so I think Marvin had a question about what setup for impact. What I feel moves first in the backswing. So as I start the club back, I'm not really conscious of what is moving first. I believe it probably starts in my feet, that it starts there. But I like to tell people, and my first 3 drills are talking about, we're going to start the takeaway with the hips, upper body, the hips and upper body moving together to take the club back. And that's what's moving the arms to start out. So starting the swing there. I would probably think it probably starts though at the ground and moves up as it does in any athletic motion. You could look at it if you were going to throw a ball. The first thing you're doing is pushing a little bit with the feet. And so I would say it's the feet, but again, I'm not a fan of thinking about a lot of things that you don't really have to think about. If I see something in the swing where somebody starts the swing with the hands, it's obviously going to make it difficult later on to get the right sequencing. So vintage Mr. D, so how was it possible for Moe Norman to control ball flight with such a different kind of swing? Let's say height and draws and fades. Well, I believe that Moe did it simply by controlling the club. So if he wanted to hit a lower shot, that he held on a little bit longer in the downswing. So he held on. Moe was left-handed and left side dominant. So I would guess that he held on and got the grip for a lower shot, got the grip leading more going through impact. So he kind of chased it through that way. To hit it higher, he let it release a little bit earlier. I've seen him do that. I saw him in many clinics where he called out the heights and said, here's 10 feet, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and so on. And it was pretty impressive. I didn't see him changing ball position. Some of it I had on film. So the only way he could have done it then in that case is by changing the loft of the club through impact. So, which is basically working on to do that. If I release earlier, the club's going to have more loft, and if I hold off the release longer, it's going to have less loft. As far as the draw and fade, that's actually pretty easy within the single plane swings. I think it's easier just to make better contact because we're set up on our impact plane. But if I set up with the club face a little bit closed, so if here's my normal setup, and then I take the club face and I close it, and now make my normal swing, the ball should curve to the left because the club face is closed relative to the path. So without changing anything in my swing, I'm simply back and through, club face is closed, and it's going to draw. If I open the face, the ball is going to fade, except for a higher lofted club. Obviously, to fade a 9-iron, 8-iron, maybe even a 7-iron is a little bit more difficult than the longer clubs. but the same idea. So if I close the face, I make my normal swing, the ball's going to hook to the left or draw, depending on how closed it is. So I'm going to have to also change my aim. So if I'm aimed, let's go this way. So if my normal aim is here and I close the face, then I'm going to have to shift and see that I aim a little bit more to the right. Some people, and I'm one to do this once in a while, close the face a little bit, and then when I hit it, I hold it off because I'm not used to seeing the club face closed. So I'll try to picture that I really wanted to hit the ball with a closed club face. So where are we? Yeah, hey Jerry, yeah, I've been using these super speed sticks, this training program. Let me get this out of here. So these sticks, I don't know if you can see that here. It's kind of dark over here. But what it is, it's a driver length stick, and it has a weight on the end. And I've had a couple of videos on YouTube now, training sessions that I've done with them. My driver speed's gone down over the past couple of years due to mainly not playing a lot and not practicing due to work and moving from Germany back here to the U.S., where I'm now based in West Palm Beach, Florida. But the sticks, I'm loving it. It feels great to swing them, and going through the training programs that you'll see on my speed project videos on the channel here. And if you haven't seen my videos here on YouTube, you can visit the channel and check out all the videos. You'll see 2 of the last 5 videos were about gaining speed. And in the last video, I swung the lighter stick here. There's 3 sticks, and I swung the lighter stick at, I think, 113 miles an hour. So my goal is to get it up to about 120, and going through the protocols for building speed, which you can see on the videos. And it feels great to swing them, and the driver feels really good afterwards. So I'm really psyched about it. I think it's going to be a great thing. I have to do another filming the 3rd episode tomorrow. Hey Jason, good to see you on here. Hope I can get out there to California soon. Hey Andre, stack and tilt is something, I like the concept of it. I think my feeling has been is that people have over exaggerated, even some of the people promoting it. So they were basically telling you you're almost going this way on the backswing, that you're going to really load over the left foot. But when I see some of the pros who did it, Aaron Baddeley comes to mind, and you don't see that. You see his head really staying in position there. So I like the concept, and I like the idea to have some feeling of pressure in the leading foot in the backswing, so that I can really push off of both feet. But I like to push off the left foot to get the hip a little bit open. So if I can get some pressure in the leading foot, I can push it open and get the hips going. And otherwise, stack and tilt, I think if you do that, I really can't imagine anybody wants to go that way on the backswing, because the problem is you're going to end up, in most cases, going the other way in the through swing. So if you can stay or feel like your weight stays centered on the feet, I think it's a good concept. And what I would add to that is that if you set up on your impact plane, so if you get the club in this position, as you're using that concept, set up on your impact plane, it's going to be probably more successful for you. Hey, Tony. Steep downswing and deep divots are usually happening because people are not using their body to turn. So what they're doing is throwing the club down with their upper body, hands, and arm. So I don't know where you can see that the best here. So it's coming down here. What we want is, as the club's coming down, that we can shallow out the approach, that the club is moving nice and shallow through impact. to do that, we need to have the grip leading. If the grip is leading, but I don't turn my body, what ends up happening is the club ends up crashing into the ground. So what we need to do is continue to turn going through. And I like to customize this for my students so that it's to the limit of their flexibility, but the goal is to get the body into the impact position before the club gets there, so that I have a turn towards the target and I continue rotating through to shut out the impact. And so the cause of the steepness is hands and arms leading and the body not helping. Hey, Rich, well, handle drag, yeah. I mean, that's one of the big things with impact, that if I can get this club or the grip leading through impact, and I have people try this. A number of my videos, I've had you actually grab a golf club. I say, hold it in front of you like this, and then I want you to look at the club face. Use your hands and do that. I want you to look at the club face rotation. And most people that I see, what they're doing, they're coming in, the club's passing, or the club head's passing their hands through impact. And I want you to look at how the club face is rotating there, and then I want you to use your body to move, let it follow your body rotation through impact. And if you watch the club face, you can really slow down the rotation. The club there's still a lot of rotation there. There's actually a lot going on behind the scenes where the club head's actually, because of the shaft, there's rotation that's closing the face too. So we want to minimize the effect of the hands. And so as we're getting in, if the handle's leading, we continue turning, we can shallow out the impact, but we can also slow the rotation so the face stays square longer, or instead of staying square longer, it's less rotation. Instead of going through impact, obviously with a lot of rotation, the chances of hitting it dead square are much less than if we have a lot less rotation. Hey, Marvin, yeah, I mean, I copied Moe, and a number of people, my customers have copied Moe in the past. And what I would recommend is make it your own motion, find out what feels comfortable to you. Moe was very unique in that he was left side, left arm dominant, and most of the people trying to copy his swing are not. It was the extreme wide stance and extreme distance from the ball worked for him because he hit millions of golf balls. And if you take the brilliance of what he did, which was his club's orientation to his hands and arms at setup, similar to what Bryson DeChambeau does, if you take that part and then just make a comfortable athletic motion, I think you'll find that it's not robotic and it's a lot more comfortable and easy to hit great golf shots. With Moe's swing, the biggest problem that I had in being consistent was because of the distance from the ball. We stood quite a ways away. In order to make great impact, because of the rotation of the body, what happened is you should actually top the ball, so you have to move down into the ball. So you have to really, and that's the bent lead leg thing, keeping the feet flat. To me, it's a completely unnatural motion, and it will cost you some distance. It did me. I probably lost 30 or 40 yards on the driver when I was trying to do that. And I gained it right back as soon as I made a natural motion. It doesn't, have any negative effect as far as I'm concerned. And from my experience in working with people in the past who have tried to copy Moe's swing, they all improve very quickly as soon as you let them be free to move and stop trying to keep the feet planted and bend the knee. They will have to move a little bit closer to the ball so they can stay more level through the shot. But to me, I see only a positive in that regard. So if you continue doing what you're doing, try to move a little closer, try to feel like you can stay a little bit more level and a little bit more natural in the swing. Hey, Andrew. Well, yeah, as far as the pendulum swing, this is a pendulum. Mo studied a lot of, different instructors and what they taught. And really, probably the purest swinging motion is a pendulum. And so when you see, I can hold the club here and it moves all on its own due to gravity back and forth. Just as far as a golf swing, they talk about a double pendulum model and a lot of other things, how involving the arms, but really we're using the body to move it. So if you look at Mo's swing and how he moved the club, and it was you would see how he moved it back. And again, he's controlling it with his left side. And when it goes through, it is like a pendulum through impact. The problem is a pendulum is always vertical. And when we get into golf, and to me, the farther that you get away from the ball, as Mo was, the harder it is to swing as a pendulum. And that's why I like what Bryson DeChambeau does better, because he's standing over it. The club's more in an upright or vertical position, or it's more vertical, which is what I'll have my customers do in chipping, is set up very upright, because the effects of gravity are lessened, and it's going to be, you can swing much more like a pendulum. It's a lot freer swing. You can use gravity to control the swing. This is vertical. So you can take a club and hold it like this, and then try to take it out there where you're trying to set up, and you'll feel the weight of the club due to gravity trying to be pulled down here. So I think as far as Mo is concerned, he probably felt it in his lead arm, and as that moving as a pendulum. So if that's a pendulum type move, Mo felt a lot of things and talked about a lot of things that also, when you looked at video, people say, well, he didn't do that. But I think he was relating a feeling that he had of a pendulum that felt free and easy. And after hitting a few million balls, I guess that makes sense that it would feel pretty easy to him. Hey, Thomas. Yeah, I mean, as far as how my takeaway thoughts, what I find really important is first getting in the right setup position and making sure that you're setting up with the club on the same plane as your trailing arm. And what I'll do, I have the trailing arm bent in. You just see where the camera is. So I have the trailing arm bent in, but I have the wrist in an uncocked position. So it looks like this. And all I'm trying to do is to turn, to start back with the hips and upper body turning. And from there, I just cock the wrist. And so as long as I'm not picking the club up this way, or that I have unnecessary or start out the swing with arm rotation, as long as I do that, it's going to be pretty close to how I'm playing. So in my teaching, I really spend very little time. If there's a serious issue there that I do have occasionally a couple people in recent schools come to mind who are letting go. They had some really bad habits. And then you really need to focus with drills 1, 2, and 3 in my learning program. They're on my website, but they're also for free on YouTube. If you look up single plane learning program, or look at my channel, you'll find them. I also have drills 1 through 6 and the ball striking drills. But if you follow those, it takes you step by step through. If you're a member of my website, you can also send in videos through the free V1 Golf app, which is no extra charge. And I do have a deal on membership right now, lifetime special at this time for $99.98. So if you're a lifetime member, you can send in videos for my review, and then I can coach you through it that way. And I'm really happy to hear everybody that's doing so well. And I love seeing people at my schools. So feeling the club lift, I don't really, should you feel the club lift? I don't, I think people, when they do that, they may feel, that it's the hands that's doing that. I like to have the idea that again, it's a complete complete. And I get a lot of people really focused on the backswing. It's, it's okay. It is the first 3 drills in my program are dealing here with how to take the club back. And if I start out with upper body rotation, that can get me off plane. If I start with my hands, that's going to get the club in a bad position. So we really want to get a feeling for just turning, going back. So my drill number 1 has you turning to here, and then we turn back the other way to impact. So we will go something like that, but that's getting you started in the right direction. And so the club goes up simply because of the turning of my body. So if the club was just attached here to the center of my body and I turn, the club's going up. And it's because of the forward bend here and then the rotation. So the club is going up, but I don't feel it. So the wrist will start to cock as I get in this area, and we go to drill 2, we're getting into this area, and then drill 3 a little bit farther. But if you're set up in your impact plane, you should be close to that plane at the top of the swing. It doesn't have to be perfect, but as long as there's no manipulation, which we're trying to eliminate over time, you're going to be pretty close to what we need. And the money area of this golf swing is, of course, here as we swing through impact. So we need to have the club moving like that through impact properly with the club leading. So my learning program, which you can access on YouTube, it's actually free on YouTube. On the website, I have also a number of practice training sessions where you can practice along with what you see me doing. That's a new feature on the website for members. And it also allows you can also send in videos through the V1 Golf app. I'm getting a lot of videos now from people who are stuck at home and filming like me. I'm in my office here, and I know you can see the lights here a little bit, but it makes the video a lot better, and it's a pretty cramped area here. You would be surprised how small this actually is. If you see on the backswing, I can almost, as an 8-iron, almost hitting the walls here. I can just make a swing. I have a net for outside, and maybe in the future I'll do some shots out there, hoping that the golf course is open again soon. So get back to business. Hey, Dave. Well, yeah, the similarities with stack and tilt with setup for impact are really, the idea is that I really am trying to stay centered as far as there's no head movement. I don't want you to go this way, but I don't believe stack and tilt wants to see that either. So I think it's very similar with, of course, the setup is a big difference, and the biggest difference between my method and conventional golf methods, and stack and tilt is conventional. It's simply, I don't set up with an angle between the trailing arm and the club. So this is how you set up conventionally, even though at impact you're going to be here. And conventionally you're setting up pretty much with the trailing arm straight and the club at an angle. And then impact, it's bent in like this. And so I have you just set up that way. It's bent, the trailing arm's bent in, the wrists are uncocked. And what happens, that takes away having to compensate for that change, which is about 4 inches of the club moving away, and you have to pull it in here. Obviously, if you hit millions of balls as when you're younger, a teenager or younger, you figure it out pretty good in some cases, but even most kids learning the game at an early age, they don't become tour players. So some of them are single digit, a lot of them aren't. So it's very, very difficult. So stack and tilt, I think it's a good fit. And then following these principles, and you'll see most tour players today, I really don't see, I can't think of any that have a lot of motion with the head moving back, or the, I don't see a hip sway anymore on the backswing, so the hips are turning in place. And that's all I want to see is turn in. And I really don't see it as that different. So. Hey, Marvin. So picking the target line. So I'll do it if the camera's the target here. What I'm doing in my setup, and you can see this in the learning program video on my complete learning program is on YouTube. So if you look at, I think it's step 2 setup, and you'll see me a lot. What I'm doing, first I'm putting the club in my hand, my leading hand, and checking the orientation. But as I'm getting set up, what I'm doing is I'm trying to see a line. So I could aim the club right at my target. So in this case, you guys, the camera's my target. And then when I hold the club there, I look down and I just line up my feet with that. So I see a straight line. If we go this way, I'm aiming my feet at the target. And I like to have my feet slightly open. So if you're hitting the ball with a little bit of a descending angle, I would prefer a little bit open as opposed to closed as far as the stance and alignment. Most people that I see end up getting their feet. So if I want to aim this way, they get their feet going out that way. And now to get the ball to the target, what they have to do is make a compensation. So they're either going to come over it. In most cases, it's that. So they're releasing early, which closes the face. And then the ball's going to the target sometimes. But they're adding this rotation so they can hit it to the left. They can hit it to the right. They're compensating for their aim, which is, really something I deal with in my schools. In a lot of cases, that can take a couple of days to get people, lining up properly. And it's something I'm really a stickler on, that if you're not aiming properly with your body, it's just, it's manipulation, compensation, city. And I don't see how you can be consistent doing that. And, that's just, everybody knows how important it is, but very few take the time to make sure that it's correct. So what I'll have people do also in the school, if we're getting lined up, I'll say, okay, go ahead and get set up. Once you're ready to go, what I want you to do, take the club down, put it along your toes, and then step back and check to see if you set up properly. So on the range, you could be working on something like that to check yourself. Pick a different target, pick a target over there, pick a target over there, change clubs often. That's how I like to practice. I'm checking my aim all the time because, somehow standing over a golf ball and aiming, I just think it's one of the most difficult things. Hey, vintage Mr. D, do you mean scoop? Stop scope in your setup for impact. I assume, and what I have people doing in my learning program, all of the drills are based on getting the body turned before the club goes through impact. So you can see what happens if I'm in my setup position and I turn my body to where I want to be at impact. So I'm going that way. You can see the grip here gets, just holding it here, the grip gets pushed forward. So my body rotation is going to help the club get ahead of the ball. Now, a lot of people have it as a habit. They play golf forever with very active hands. So part of the drills, ball striking drill number 1, has people learning to move here. And what I'll have them do once they're in this finished position with practice swings first, most people, even in the schools, they're there. And so if they extend the club, it's running into their stomach. So you need to learn to practice with feedback to see with short swings first. So if I hit a shot here, and then I can check it. That was actually more ahead than I normally would want it. And so if you keep checking yourself, and then in my school, some of the advanced drills, I'll have you also, if you're really in extreme case where you can't get rid of it, I'll have you moving with just one hand, the trailing hand, and seeing that this space at setup, so normal setup, take it away, and then check to see that we can move through and keep this distance the same or have even more distance between the grip and the forearm when we go through. So that's how I would work. Stop that. No problem, I got you, Vintage. Hey, Jason. Yeah, single length golf clubs. I get this a lot, obviously, because of Bryson. That's where all of the iron from wedges to longest iron, and in some cases hybrids, are all the same length as a 7-iron. Sometimes they do it as an 8-iron length, but for me, I don't see a lot of people who are able to get the proper spacing between each club within that system. So because the wedges are the length of a 7-iron, for a lot of people, they tend to fly farther than they did in the past. At the same time, a 5-iron or 4-iron, if you have one, tends to not fly far enough. So when I tried it, I went through a fitting, and I did try that as part of the fitting. It was really a brand neutral fitting, and I asked also to try the single length clubs, and I tried, in that case, the Ideal single length clubs, so they had a nice fitting system for that. And in the fitting, I was hitting the Callaway 6-iron that I was using for the fitting. I was hitting about 185 to 190 yards, and the 4-iron from the single same length set, I was hitting about 170 or 165 yards. It just wasn't getting up in the air. They tried some different shafts, and it just, for me, it just didn't make sense because of that. I need to hit the 4-iron then 210 yards for it to make sense, 210 yards carry in that scenario, and it just was no way for me. And I think that's kind of a fitting issue. It could also be swing speed, but I just decided not to mess around with it at that point. I've contacted Cobra. I've never gotten a response from them about interest in what they're doing. Obviously, it works pretty well for Bryson. However, I'm not sure, with the wedges, it seems like he's trying a lot of different wedges. A while back, I recommended to Bryson through messages, which I did not get a response to, but suggestions that, use normal wedges. He's having trouble with distance control with the wedges and spin rates. To me, it would make sense just use normal wedges and then go maybe pitching wedge or pitching 9, 8, 7, 6, the same length. If you can get the proper spacing, you could play with the loft a little bit and go that route. But you need to be working on a launch monitor in that case. And again, it depends what what your goals are. For somebody that's a 30 handicap or even a 20, doesn't have time to mess around with things, it may be great. And I have some people that's, I've had swear by it, love it. I've had guys in schools, they do pretty good with it as far as I could see. And, you just want to see that you're getting decent distance dispersion between the club. And the rescues, I tried a couple hybrids that were 7-iron length, and I just couldn't hit them far enough. So, again, but they weren't fit to me. So that's all I'd be looking for, is to see that they, fit for me. And Bryson, I think his longest iron may be a 5-iron. So to me, I would love it if it worked and I had a 4 and 3 iron that flew the right distance at that length. I think it'd be fantastic. And maybe they'll get there. So. Let me see, Marvin. So there's a follow-up setup. When you tilt, does that impact or change? Yeah, what happens with the tilt? So if we talk about if I'm tending to have an open club face through impact, if I don't have enough tilt, so if I'm set up here and at impact I have a lot more tilt, what that tends to do, from what I've seen with people, is it tends to open the club face. So if you tend to have an open club face, it's something I'd be looking at is adding a little tilt. And so I do that in the setup by moving the leading hip over the leading foot, and my head is positioned over the center to back of my stance. And so that's going to be close to matching that impact. I may have a little bit more tilt at impact, and either that's fine. Again, I'm holding the club in a way that fits to my impact position. That's how I adjust. If you have too much tilt and then you hit the ball and it doesn't allow you to turn through the shot because you have so much tilt, I might expect the ball to go left, or for a right-handed golfer, tend to close the face. So there's a lot of variables that are going on there. I like to see this look here at setup that the hip is close to being over the lead foot. It could be back a little bit, but close, and so that the hips can rotate in the space they're set up in, and it's easier for people to get this impact leading foot like that, as opposed to starting in the conventional position where you rotate going back, and then we need to get the hip in that position as we're trying to rotate. So for me, it's one less step, and I like to simplify things. Did anybody else not get that single length iron answer? It'll probably, anyway, it'll come back. When it plays back, it should have the whole thing. Hey, Rob. Yeah, I think I saw you ask this. I haven't gotten to the answering all the YouTube comments. The shaft, as far as single plane or non-single plane, you don't need anything special or different in that regard. As far as getting fit for a shaft, what I did in my fitting, I tried as many options as possible on a TrackMan to get the right spin and launch conditions for me. And it's really, I haven't had to change shafts. The shaft that I use conventionally works fine for single plane and so on. It's just because impact is going to be the same. So if I'm set up here and I impact here, or I set up here and I impact here, it doesn't really matter. If you gain speed, you may need a little bit different of a shaft. And with all the different torques and bend points, and today there's a ton of different shafts available. And I went through a process with Club Champion. That's who I do my fitting with, and that's who I recommend. Also, my customers who go there, if you say that you're one of my customers, you get 5% off on a fitting. They do a tremendous job. And what I ended up with in the driver is this Fujikura 661 Evolution 4. It's a fantastic shaft for me. Other people who try it, maybe not. I tried probably 20 different shafts with the driver to find out that this one was the best, and it was obvious when I hit it. And so I really don't think you should be going out and say, hey, take this shaft. Or I know a lot of people do fitting and say, oh, based on your swing speed, this is the shaft you need. It's just, I don't do things that way. I know some people don't have the option to go through a fitting like that. And in that case, I have you go to a place that allows you to test drivers on a launch monitor so that you can at least see the differences and feel the differences of the different shafts, and try as many as you can. Don't focus on a single brand. Try as many different options as possible. So some companies have 2 or 3 or 4 different shaft options. Try them all. Try them with Cobra and Ping and Callaway and TaylorMade. And finding the right shaft is the most important thing. And then make sure the driver's not too long. Most people end up with drivers over 45 inches. Tour average is the last I heard about 44.5, which is about an inch shorter than what most people play. So get the right shaft. whatever you can do, even if you just do a driver fitting, it's worth it to have a shaft that fits you perfectly and your swing, and it doesn't matter if it's single plane or conventional. Yeah, vintage Mr. D. No, I wouldn't shorten golf clubs. I would, the lie angle is going to depend on a number of variables: how tall you are, how long your arms are, how far you stand from the ball, and how much you bend forward. So to find out the lie angle that you need, and if you're going from the conventional swing to a single plane swing, and you're moving from here at setup to here, but you keep the distance from the ball the same at setup. So if I'm set up here, so you're set up here, and you go here, impact is still going to be the same. So from what I've seen, there should be no change necessary. Now, a lot of people doing this were trying to copy Moe Norman, so they went from here, and then they moved the ball way out there, so they're standing really far from the ball. So if you're standing farther away, you need a flatter golf club. If you stand closer, you'll need a more upright golf club. So all things being equal. So depending on how where you are. So golf clubs need to be fit for impact. And even if the golf club is sitting flat, soled on the ground at setup, and if impact is on that same plane, the club is still going to have droop, meaning that the club shaft is bending the head down, so the shaft is bowed this way, which necessitates a more upright club than what you see at setup. But again, I have also people, they set up here, and their impact is here. So what we need to do is be fit for impact for the lie angle. And what happens, what we do there, we put you onto a lie board, put the ball on a lie board, which is a piece of plexiglass or plastic, and we put some tape on the bottom of the club, and then you hit some shots off of the board, and it shows you where the sole is making contact with the ground at impact. So if we see a mark in the center, we know the lie was correct. I don't know if you can see, it's kind of dark back here. So you see that the lie is correct. If it's marking towards the toe, that would say we need to bend up that way, more upright. If it's marking towards the heel, that signs that impact that's going through there, then the club needs to be flatter. And so the only way to reliably be fit is being fit for impact. Hey guys, yeah, I'm sorry if there are streaming issues. Sometimes it's your bandwidth, or I think there's a lot of demand on bandwidth these days. I have an extremely fast internet connection. That doesn't mean it's perfect probably, but it's very, very fast as far as upload and download speed. What you can do is go back, and this will be live, or this will be on demand. I think if you go on my channel and you click the live button, you can see all the live shows that I've done, and then you can move ahead to this point. Just note how many minutes in. So we're now about 45 minutes in. So you go 45 minutes, and then you can go back and see. And it should be recording everything. As far as I can see myself on a monitor and on the iPad here, where I can read the questions, and it seems to be working okay here. And I'm sorry for any of that. The question about lie angle, I think I answered it. Really, if you end up setting up closer to the ball with set up for impact. So if your normal if you were copying Moe Norman, and now you're standing closer, but you're still single plane, then you would likely need a slightly more upright club. Again, go to a fitter or go to a place where you can measure off a live board. You can actually hit some balls off a piece of plexiglass and put a piece of electrical tape on the bottom. You can check it out. Many clubs can be adjusted for that. From my experience, even people playing conventionally or if they're trying to copy Moe Norman, their clubs aren't fitting their impact anyway, because when they did the fitting or bought the clubs, they did not hit from a live board and have it measured. You want to measure it to be sure at impact. In some cases, you can look at the divot and see what's going on, if it fits or not, but that's an important issue. 1 second. So the transition, Marvin, let me. And guys, I recommend when you, to learn more about the setup for impact swing, look for that. If you're not a member of my website, you can look on my YouTube channel here. There's a lot of videos, but there's some that show you the drills. And in that, I'm talking about as we're getting near the top, it depends on the length of the swing, but the transition is obviously going to start with my feet, and my feet are going to apply pressure to the ground, which are going to get the hips turning before the club starts down. So all of the drills are teaching you how to do that, and so they're showing you step by step how to go through that. And we're doing that first without golf balls. So a lot of the top players will practice a lot without golf balls. I've yet to meet an amateur who comes to my golf schools or otherwise who practiced ever without golf balls. So the way to get a feel for emotion and to improve it would be if I stood here and I want to work on the transition. First, I'm going to start with a very short swing. So my ball striking drill number 1, I do without golf balls first, and I'll take it back. And as the club's going back, I'm going to start turning, going through. So back, and I'm turning. So I just transitioned to impact. So back. So much like if I was going to toss a ball, my arm's going back, I'm already turning. And so that's coming from the ground. So look for drills 1 through 6. That's a video. You put single plane drills 1 through 6 on my YouTube channel. You'll find it, or it's in the complete video, which is 56 minutes or something on my YouTube channel. It's a green thumbnail that says Complete Learning System. You'll find all of that. For those who want to support my work, I do have a special $50 off on my lifetime membership. It's less than $100. It's like $99.98 for a limited time now. And that allows you to send in videos also for my review. Let me see. So golf, India, how high you lift the arms would depend on your flexibility. I'm not a fan of trying to lift the arms, except that it's going to be through my body rotation. So I'm going to see how far I can comfortably turn going back to the limit of my flexibility, at the same time keeping the coil or keeping the weight on the inside of the trailing leg and some bend in the trailing knee. So I'm going to see, I'm limited maybe right now to here. I'm not going to do anything independently to lift the arms up. So it's all through the rotation of my body, and that's going to be the limiting factor. So anybody have any other questions? I'm going to move on, and I'll be on tomorrow, probably around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So it could be noon. I'm going to put that in the morning when I'm sure what my plans are, but it'll be sometime in that range, and answering questions. Again, it can be, any topic, and we're going to go from there. Please check out my website, learninggolf.tv. All of my information is on there, as well as practice sessions that you can work along with at home, where I show you practice and drills and we work together. And again, membership allows you to send in videos for my review. And I hope to have some schools up and running as soon as we're allowed to do that again. Looking at North Carolina the end of May with Tony Griffin, who's my master instructor up there. He does a great job. Just shot his age again the other day. He's doing great. And we're going to do a school together up there, which will be playing on the golf course and working on the swing. So it'll be mornings mainly practice and afternoons on the golf course, along with a possible training session afterwards, after the golf. Hoping to do that, I think, May 30th to June 1st, if it's permitted to do that. And possibly in the middle of June. That was supposed to be middle of May, but it's obviously going to have to move that back due to the current situation. And then Cincinnati, possibly end of June. Not sure yet on that. But it looks like they're relaxing restrictions up there in Ohio now as well. So let me see. Anybody else have anything else? Great, thanks. Glad that you guys enjoyed the session. Again, I hope you have a great day. Stay safe.